Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and today we're going to take a look at some anti heroes, some feudal edge lords. We're going to take a look at Namor or Namor. And while somewhat of a B level, maybe even C level Marvel superhero, we're not going to focus specifically on that character, but here where we like to suffer together with our world building disease, we are going to take a look at that character and, well, build a setting around it. Because sometimes we get stuck, we get some writer's block, some creative blockage, and we need to blow the dust off of our brains, be inspired by things in the background. And so here on the channel, I got a lot of standees behind me, and I don't usually talk about them. So I said, you know what? Why don't we use those as inspiration? So, guys, sit back, relax, get some snacks, and we'll get into it. Again, hello, I am DBJ, your host for today's show. And yes, this scantily clothed individual standee behind me is Namor, or Namor as it's been translated in the movie version of it. But we're going to go backwards a little bit in time and talk very generally about Namor as a character. Now, if you know anything about the two major comic book intellectual properties and corporate entities, you'll know that Marvel superheroes and DC superheroes are the big boys in the group, and they've always had different market shares. But one of the very common things as a consummate comic book reader and graphic novel collector and whatnot is that both Marvel and DC have parallel characters, mainly because, listen, they're a business, and so if DC if DC comes out with a character with a blue cape on, then Marvel will somewhat steal the idea and make those characters. And so, uh, many years ago, 50s, 60s, or whatnot, both Marvel and DC came out with aquatic superheroes. And Marvel's main character, known as Namor, has survived the test of time for the most part intact. Now, many superheroes go through what is a soft or hard reboot when new creators come along and they get hired. Many of them who used to be kids like myself, gotten older, they get hired into the industry and they go back in time and say, "Hey, here's one, two, eight different aspects of the character. I think we should develop them and highlight those things." Now, of course, I had to have my Aquaman in here too, because can't forget ourselves some Aquaman who's probably pissed off that I'm talking about thick thigh Namor sitting behind me. Now, in the movie version of this, Namor had a very this character had a very Central American, um, Aztec, Mayan, Incan cultural aspect to him, and so the name Namor or No More Love came about for the character. A great origin for the name, which in most comics have been Namor, or more broadly, Namor the Submariner. I know some people used to just call it the Submariner, but but Namor the Submariner for a very long time was just shortened down to Submariner, similar to another DC character known as Deathstroke the Terminator, and for a large portion of his history was just known as the Terminator and not Deathstroke. But anyway, Namor the Submariner fills a role that is a tropish role in comic books that is very common, and we're going to use this primarily as our setting fuel, and that is the idea. I'm not getting any chat messages. All right, that is the idea that um, there are these feudal edge lords in many superhero comic books, and these feudal edge lords tend to preside over a exotic location and are a singular uh, have a singular rulership type of role, and which normally allows them to maybe not so much participate in the comics regularly, but what happens is they come in for a short time. There's an excuse to be made for this feudal lord to leave their exotic location, take part in adventures, and then return back home. And so the storylines tend to be run along the hero's journey. They leave home, um, for one or many reasons. They have to deal with a larger storyline that deals with their home. They meet other heroes. There's some kind of conflict. They end up falling in line with that conflict. I mean, falling in line and being allies with the people interact with. They solve the problem and they go back home. And so many times, what we have is once the feudal lord arrives, um, there's always a misunderstanding. Usually, it turns into some kind of physical confrontation. Not always. And then after they solve the issue, there is this desire to, hey, feudal lord, why don't you stay with us? Nah, I got stuff to take care of. Pretty much because the writers have run out of a storyline and they return back home. And we see this. We start naming a ton of characters that are these like feudal edge lords from uh, if I can move to the side here, Black Panther in the background, Wonder Woman, Thor, and so many other characters that are aliens or from other dimensions or from a region of Earth that has never quite been seen before, and that's that's very common. And we, as we were talking about some of these characters, like the Spider-Man character and Daredevil and whatnot, a lot of times Spider-Man's friendly neighborhood, Daredevil's Hell's Kitchen, um, Namor and Aquaman's Atlantis in the undersea world, Black Panther in Wakanda. There's always this tie with community, and that there, if you were to design this as a tabletop role playing game from the ground up, that there would be an intrinsic tie, mechanics wise, between their community and the power of the character, the success of that character. And on this channel, we talk about the hero's journey and the opposition to that by Douglas Burton, known as the heroine's labyrinth, when those characters return home. Batman going back to Gotham City, many of these other, I can't. I'm trying to think of other characters. Green Lantern, either protecting his own sector or going back to Oa. I'm trying to think of other superhero characters that are similar to this. Uh, I'm running out of. I can't do it live. Many of these characters that return home, they do, instead of their journey, they go back into the labyrinth in which they have to deal with home built ideas. And I think these portions are great for excellent storytelling fodder. Leave home, don't know what's happening home, come back home, deal with problem at home, wash, rinse, repeat, leave home to deal with external issues that are threatening your community. Let me pause here for just a minute because it seems like, or I'm assuming that uh, I am not getting any chats. So we'll pause this here and pop out a chat window just in case. Going to YouTube and Twitch to get the chat. I apologize for this, guys. And Twitch channel, because we do simulcast on both platforms. And here we go. Pop out the chat. Woohoo! All right, you're gonna slide you over here so I can at least take a look at it. Anyway, all right, we're back. I apologize for that. Just wanted to ensure that anybody that takes place on the show live, you guys are the co-hosts of this show that makes me look brilliant. And when I'm a talking head by myself, I look stupid. Drew's like, here's a comment. Yeah. Matter of fact, you know what? I'll even share that out here so we can get some context here. There we go. All right, all right. Oh, it came up. Yay. I don't have to do that. All right. Yes, it did work. Oh boy. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Um, all right. So let's go a little bit into the history of Namor, slightly, and you guys are already going to know this type of historical thing. Why? Because it's so common in Marvel and DC and superhero tropes that we can, of course, use this for our player characters and where they come from. So, um, uh, Namor, as well as like Aquaman and such, um, they are the special ones. Now, you know, is Namor like half human and whatnot? Yes, ish. Although Namor does have even here, I wonder if you can see the wings on the feet there. In the movie version, they did have an alignment with like the idea of the winged serpent, uh, Coatl. Anyway, a winged serpent through legend and mythology and whatnot, and wondered if how that would look in a live action, because when you draw a character with wings on their feet and they can fly, it looks cool, but when you actually see the little wings flapping, lifting them into the air, it looks a little bit odd, right? But yeah, Aquaman and Namor are, I guess you would call them, mixed breed characters who become special. Don't know why half your genetic material makes you twice as powerful as everybody else, but whatever. And of course they have a noble lineage, leading them to become the leaders, the like I said, the feudal edge lords in these worlds. Now, like a Thor who is supposed to take over, but we have Odin around sometimes, like Wonder Woman, who technically isn't on the throne. She's the daughter of. It's the same thing. It's These are characters that have preside over their um, exotic locations, and that becomes an important part, I think, in terms of the continued storytelling. That not only would the characters come from these exotic lands, and they have not only do they come from them, they are the special ones, and their birth could be something as mundane and simple as being born under an astrological uh, unit, or having a birthmark, or what have you. But you can also make them special by their uh, we can also make them special by having their birth related to I'm going to change the color here. Having their birth related to something like their bloodline, or where they were born. Like, were they born on a in a special location in your setting, or uh, something like that. And you could actually make this very mechanical in some role playing games. Like, the first thing that comes to mind is Werewolf the Apocalypse, and it's a White Wolf game where characters basically play werewolves, and depending on the moon you were born under, you have a representative nature within the culture. So a full moon meant something different than a crescent moon, a half moon, and I can't remember the other two moons. Gibbous, and I can't remember the other moon. And I think there was a time when there was even like an eclipse and a red moon or blood moon and whatnot. So we can use those things for birth. Okay. Now, there can be some awkward, depending on the creation of your setting. There could be some awkwardness when it comes to people being born into a specific social status. A lot of these characters who are these feudal lords, they are that way because of blood, right? And in our modern parlance, we are far more far more forgiving of a meritocracy than we are of a feudal system, and that's where some great conflict can come in. Just because you have a bloodline or you were born to something, does that necessarily give you the skills to preside over a country or a nation or a city state or some other hidden exotic community that you are that you have dominion over. Um, Also, in a meritocracy, are the player characters more of a lower level who have the better capabilities that embarrass the people at the highest levels. Um, Characters that are at the higher levels end up getting threatened by those below them because there's a built-in animosity. I'm not born to be at your level, therefore I have a hatred for you. And a lot of stories with Namor and Aquaman and here we go, Black Panther behind me and whatnot come about through the idea of the lower members of society, the ones not born into nobility, have an instant jealousy, and the our main character has to defend themselves as um, there's a little bit of um, imposter syndrome involved in some of our main protagonists. That yeah, they were born into that situation, they didn't ask for it, but also proving their merits that against these foes that feel like they should have an opportunity to lead. Great conflict there, great built-in storytelling moments for player characters that may have that belong to and have responsibility to care for their community. If you want to go with a traditional or traditional-ish feudal system where people are by birth or chosen, random chosenness to be leadership. Now this idea that they're chosen could be something like, for example, a Odin like character could bestow special abilities to player characters, or they were somehow randomly chosen by some alien influence, or a an AI computer system, or an ancient blessing slash curse made them this way, and so now they are in this higher level of position. If you still want to keep it if you really want to keep it a meritocracy, maybe the player characters are involved in the settling of this place, whether it's science fiction and they've settled they've established themselves on an alien world, or traveled to a different dimension, or something like that, or it's a post-apocalyptic setting, and the players have found a safe haven, and people have settled there. So maybe it is a meritocracy in the sense of the players did perform an action, and then they got pushed into, willingly or not, pushed into some form of leadership. Now, something that could happen in the background, which I think is great for storytelling, is the players may need to set NPCs on the path of protection and security and shelter and resource extraction or collection, hunting gathering basically, and then the player characters leave to come back to see if the fruits of their labor are any good. You Similar to like one of many of the old Sims games. Maybe the players have to you give them 5 points and you have to spread that around. Uh, 8 different primary things the community must take care of. So they don't necessarily have all of the resources they need. You have to split your attention. So it might be um, protection of the borders, like in Wakanda's case. They're literally, their whole nation is underneath a holographic protective dome of some sort that the outside world doesn't know that they exist. So who protects that and monitors that? Then there's also a community of people making sure that vibranium, the special ore that fell from a meteor in Africa, and Wakanda sprang around it, and that's where they get their technology from and whatnot that they've been able to exploit, making sure that those resources don't leave. Especially with our aquatic heroes, Namor in particular, has gotten extremely upset many times and we'll get into the anti-heroism of this, has gotten upset many times about ecological damage and damage to the oceans, which, what is it, 70% of the world is ocean on Earth, and saying like, yeah, my world, my country's bigger than yours, and you're dumping all your bullshit into it, trash and debris and dead bodies and all that kind of stuff, and to take revenge on the land dwellers. And so that's so common. That's a really great go-to. As a matter of fact, with Namor and Black Panther back there, there's a storyline where Namor caused a tsunami, a flood, to flood Wakanda. Now, you may say to yourself, well, I always imagined Wakanda being in Central Africa. How the hell was it? Doesn't matter. It was like sometimes plot things happen and move at this in this at the speed of plot in many ways, right? And so there can be many times where, like, for absolute convenience, things happen because, well, they happen. And the locations of places and things and spatial distances and things like that are are plot related. But anyway, Namor has assaulted the Earth, the air breathers, plenty of times in the comic books, which brings us to um, the edge lording that I was talking about concerning Namor. Now, Namor has very, very commonly and popularly, and is one of the most popular anti-hero, adversarial, neutral, a-hole characters ever created in Marvel and DC comic books. I believe Lobo, as a newer character in DC, kind of occupies that space, but in Marvel comics, it was always Namor. And Namor was one of these main characters that not only has he um, dipped his toe into nearly every single genre of superheroes in the Marvel comics. Namor has been considered a mutant among his own people. Therefore, X-Men comics has been an Avenger character, has joined different groups, the Avengers and Defenders, um, and also been public enemy number one far too many times. He's kidnapped main characters, mostly mostly the ladies. Loves himself some milfs. What is it? Invisible Woman. I think Storm at one point he was in love with or whatever. Drew says Namor might be an edge lord, but at least he's not brooding on buildings. Yeah, Daredevil and Batman. I can't believe I'm dark and it's raining and stuff. Which is, I, I don't have ocean sounds in the background. I've only got like rain. Although I guess I could use nature sounds. We'll go with some nature sounds. So anyway, the one of the things that makes him also an edge lord is that based on the writers, he's a hero or a villain. He's an adversary or an ally. He's in the way, or he's absolutely pushing the story forward. He's the quest giver or the quest taker away, and far too often comes into a thing with his arrogance and his um, desire to really embrace the idea that do what I say, not as I do kind of character, and very much causes a lot of trouble. Now, um, uh, in the comic books, he's normally the green the green scaled speedos. Most recently, they've started to dress him in like a black leotard with his chest open, one of those uh, ladies dance sleeves where it's just like long sleeves on the arms but the chest is open. It kind of wears one of those. Now he's seen with a trident every once in a while, or harpoon or spear. I think um, Aquaman's more often seen with the trident. I think he's more often seen with the harpoon type of thing. But every once in a while they change him up. But he still has the same Asiatic styled features and the slick back black hair and the elven ears. And often stands, very rarely smiles, if at all, and usually gets pissed off. I think he was even a member, or is a member, of the Illuminati. In the Marvel comics, the Illuminati being a group of the most powerful superheroes together who make decisions to keep the Earth safe. Sometimes not making decisions that aren't necessarily good, but sometimes somebody has to make the hard decision anyway. And that's where we get ourselves Namor. Now, for player characters, despite the fact that I might be talking about heroes, most likely your players are going to be in the edge lord anti-hero category, right? A lot of times being able to wanting to make decisions that don't necessarily align with like heroism, but you could still tell some pretty good stories along that line, especially if the players are impulsive and don't think things through too much. And Namor is very much that kind of character who doesn't think things through too much, and then always gets pissy about the fact that maybe he made the wrong decision, made things worse. Now he's got to stick around to kind of solve the problem, especially for his own desires. And more often than not, once he's done and satisfied with his own desires, he's out. He's just gone. He's like, and if players are tasked with, like in say a game like Blades in the Dark, where you are um, in a neo-Victorian world, criminal gang members doing heists. You're concerned about your own group, your own gang, your own um, the people you preside over. Everybody else can probably kick rocks. Now, of course, when it comes to things like storylines and extended things, extended stories, using backgrounds of your players' backgrounds and using that as fuel to tell stories. Of course, making decisions where you don't care about other people are excellent fodder to cause even more problems for the players, for them to have to consider other people's feelings, other people's desires and motivations. And then, of course, with the idea of coming from an aquatic realm, which we're going to talk about and play with, you now have an exotic location to mix and match into your world, so that the players are not just challenged like socially or politically, but they're also drawn into these exotic locations and have to deal with that as well. Players don't have to come from an aquatic realm, but the idea of having players come from one place and go to another exotic place may also be important. The United States sends off astronauts. The players become those astronauts for a colony, and then come to find out that they land on an alien world that has all kinds of different exotic locales, whether they're underwater or zero gravity or volcanic regions or arctic you know arctic freezing or blasted by heat. And then the players need to deal with that as well, along with taking care of their people, making sure they're fed and safe and secure and educated and whatnot. Um, Other great, easy storylines to tell are, players can be badasses and they can play Billy Badass, but they have to take care of people who aren't as badass as they are. So, rescuing, being a decoy to keep danger away, the not just a fetch quests being meaning like players must go somewhere to get something and bring something very important back, like fuel or medicine or food, or a rescue attempt and bring those hostages back or something like that, or safety, someone's injured or a group of people are trapped or injured and they need to be safe and brought back. But also there's the travel quest, protecting the caravan, protecting the starship, protecting the sailing voyage. Those are very common story tropes we can use for a character like this. And then you got to have all out war. If players would have, you could have all out war where the players have to gather together their most likely warrior style or um, combat related individuals from their community and set them against some enemy, with the players leading the frontline forces, and then giving orders to the more combat oriented people to go left, right, hold a position, move forward in a spear, sit back and turtle up and whatnot, and then give orders that way. All great storylines we can take and steal from Namor and whatnot. Also, something really cool about Namor is Namor really doesn't care what people think about him. But and we can claim that other people's opinions don't affect us. But if we're real, if we're honest with ourselves, we are individuals who very much want to be. We would prefer to be favored more than not favored. Now I'm wearing a very bold and bright T-shirt. This is a Marvel T-shirt of a ton of heroes, and I think there's some villains thrown in the background here. And this is actually a Civil War T-shirt. It's very difficult to see, but I didn't have a Namor T-shirt, and so Namor is actually right here in a T-shirt, way in the corner. Kind of funny because he's always brooding, but then everybody else is brooding on this T-shirt too. They all have like their attitudes and whatnot, but yeah, if the players want to be like upset and pissed off and not real take actions where they don't really care about the outcomes and or actually fold their arms and pretend like they don't care about the outcomes, you look at neighbor all pissed off like F you guys. Great way to do that as well, where the players like, I don't care what other people think, and then as they dig a hole deeper for themselves, other people will hate them, not work with them, um, have opinions about them, protest, put up graffiti and funny memes and things like that about the characters, and you could really stick a player character in the anus when it comes to things like that until they're like, damn it, now I have to change my opinion and get things done by being nice. This is stupid. Um, Politically, you can also have some great storylines where, because of the players' actions, that they may or may not be able to get things done, or on a like United Nations, United Galactic, whatever type of organization, the players being told not to do something and being told what to do. Players hate being told what to do, and that's great. That's a great fuel for you to use when the nations of the world are saying, no, you can't do this thing, but it needs to be done, and the players are like, F you, middle finger, I'm getting out of here, I'm going to do this thing whether you like it or not. And of course, that maybe they save the day or retrieve the special resource, or um, talk to the enemy they're not supposed to, or whatever the case may be, release the hostages that are supposed to be exchanged, or the spies that were captured and get them back, or cross heck, just crossing the borders of another country that you're not supposed to, and engaging in all kinds of hilarity. And player characters very much be part of that. Now, there's also loneliness at the top, and Namor has kidnapped many a superhero or heroine and been rebooted and forgiven and going back and done it again or whatever. And so being lonely at the top may be a feature if you want to have more of a internal struggle with some of the characters. And so the responsibilities, being detached from the common man, may also be some more personal storylines where the players are trying to find true love or friendship, or absolve their guilt or atone for their actions, or just want peace and quiet when they're constantly being pulled in different directions, not showing fear and indecisiveness in the face of people who are around them, who expect them to be foundational. They expect them to be always on point, always ready, always make the right decision, and not show any fear, not show any indecision. And yet, the player, the character themselves, may be going through some situations, and they don't really have anyone to turn to, and even mental stress could even be involved in some of these storylines as well. I can imagine twisting Call of Cthulhu a bit. If you're a Call of Cthulhu fan, it's very much mundane here, mundane characters doing extraordinary things, and instead of characters being investigators or something like that, they could be representatives, like say in a post-apocalyptic world where Cthulhuoid, Lovecraftian horrors have taken over already, and so now those characters are suffering sanity, which is like a hit points, but for your mind in Call of Cthulhu and Cthulhu in all of its derivations, and instead of being losing it just from the horrors they see outside, maybe they're losing it from the stresses of trying to maintain the people inside and using that as like a zombie Lovecraftian horror apocalypse or something, and they need to uh, take resuscitate themselves, recover themselves by getting back with loved ones or friends or meditation or something like that. Um, that was a big fire hose of elements, I think, when it comes to Namor. Namor, and also Namor sometimes isn't the most interesting character, but Namor also represents a character that highlights other characters' devotions and honor and themes and whatnot. For example, um, some characters like a Captain America may be maybe put in a position where his honor is being tested. Does he forgive Name? Does he needs Namor as an ally? Does he defend Namor or forgive Namor, or doesn't try to go after Namor, even though Namor has committed many many atrocities to have Namor on his side to achieve a greater goal? And then even at the end of that, does this Captain America character then go after Namor to say, thanks for helping us out. We'll take that into consideration, but you've still committed war crimes and whatnot. We still need to go after you. And so a lot of times Namor is also used as a foil against other characters, especially their decisions. Like having Namor agree with you sometimes isn't a good thing. Um, being punished by association sometimes is a problem when it comes to Namor and even Aquaman and whatnot. Characters like Black Panther here, T'Challa here in the background, being in opposition to a character like Namor and other characters having to choose between the two. For the most part, if anyone in opposition to Namor tends to be the right person, unless unless literally bad guys like printed on their forehead. For the most part, people are like, Namor, maybe we don't really need you here. And then a lot of times Namor is like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm gonna be here anyway. Um, yeah, what are a few war crimes amongst friends, right? Yeah, it's just us, and that happens a lot in comic books, right? Like, so, not quite fridging. It's not really in that category, but a lot of times, everyone needs to up the what's the term called um, uh, spectacle creep. There's a lot of in comic books. There's a lot of spectacle creep. Spectacle creep, and this happens in movies and television as well. Spectacle creep is basically a very simplified method of, well, if we do something and there's one, why don't we do it 5 times? If there's one explosion, why not 16 explosions? If there's 2 deaths, why not make it 20 deaths? It's a very simplified version of making something better than or bigger and better than the last time. And when the Marvel movies, the MCU, ended with Thanos and the Gauntlet, and snapping fingers and literally killing off half the life in the universe, a lot of people in the comic book genre, fans of it, fanboys, were like, all right, well, we need a bigger bad guy. We need Galactus who eats planets. We need, a multiverse where it's going to be destroyed. And what happens after that? It's got to be bigger and better. A spectacle creep. And that happens with characters. And Namor is one of those spectacle creep type of characters where it's like, I'm not just going to kidnap one superhero. I'm going to kidnap a submarine of people. I'm going to destroy a whole nation, which Namor did with Wakanda. Like, hey, I'm going to cause a tsunami and take out a whole country. Well, what happens after that? It's like, well, I'm going to be part of the Illuminati and cause some other problems, and then you end up having to hit the reset button to do this, try to do the spectacle creep all over again, and hope the fans don't remember that. Wait a minute, didn't this character Magneto killed with his magnetic powers way back in the late 80s, early 90s, killed sailors in a submarine. And I mean, they were just like poking around, and I guess they found his underwater base or something like that and decided to kill them. And it's like, well, X-Men, I know you befriended Magneto and he's your friend, but he's also a mass murderer. Did we just forget that? And so yeah, there's a lot of that. Heck, even Henry Pym, a consummate main character in the Avengers, he's had many different titles of Giant Man and Ant Man and Yellow Jacket and whatnot. He's done a lot of horrible things to people, including creating Ultron in the comic books and so many other things. It's just like, yeah, I don't. Yeah, thanks Tony Stark and the MCU for creating Ultron. We really appreciate that one. Good job. Um, a lot of times there was big problems, but to be honest with you, the comics do deal with those situations, and players are probably going to be in those situations. I mean, heck, if players are literal leaders of nations and they have access to nuclear weapons, a player is going to launch one. That just give a player a bomb, they're going to set it off some kind of way, right? And so yeah, maybe you might not want to hold on to your setting. With white knuckles, you might want to let it go and let them just do a lot of destruction and go along with it. Which destruction is actually a good thing because it allows the players to then have to maybe rebuild. If you want to go a bit more mundane, maybe players have to build aqueducts or establish treaties or create trade routes, um, have um, uh, food and medicine. I'm trying to think of something. Education, child care, and things like that. And I don't mean they have to delve into it for 3 hours, but maybe they have to allocate resources to allow for families or jobs to grow or processing of natural resources or artistic endeavors and things like that. And like a sim light, the Sims sim light game, maybe a mini game in your tabletop role playing game, or just translate some of the numeric values over into a thing like something very simple you could do in a very fantasy D20 system would be, all right, we have our six basic stats like Constitution. We know what Constitution is, usually running between 3 and 18. Normally the number goes between like as low as 8 to probably up to 16, 17, 18. Maybe those are your hit points. And you'll never get any more than that. But when you gain levels and you gain hit points as a fantasy character, those points above that aren't really hit points. Those are like your strive, your willpower, your I don't know, get a thesaurus and look up something, and those extra points, your extra levels are related to your community. And so to get those, yeah, you can get back up to your maximum of your constitution score, but anything above that, in order to recoup that, you have to go back to your safe haven, which is your community. And you could very much tie like class levels and special abilities and things like that to your community and recovery of those said things, and just house rule it or something. I think that'd be kind of cool. Like, no, I'm a pretty cool character, but I'm very much a badass when I'm fueled by protecting my people. Um, Internally, let's go back to we have the hero's journey where all the characters leave outside. You know, Namor, Black Panther, Aquaman leaving home. But what happens internally? And in the heroine's labyrinth is a story framework like the hero's journey, and in that there's something known as the masked minotaur, and some great storylines can come about when players come back home. And of course there's an interloper, of course there are people you haven't known about, of course there's family and friends who are like, I've been doing all the hard work while you've been out there gallivanting. What about me? What about mine? And those people could start to create a groundswell of a rebellion against the player. Now, of course, as a masked minotaur, the players are probably very easily going to know who the enemy is, but because of the rules of the community, the cult of deception, in many ways, you can't openly break those rules because you'll be punished. Um, the White Wolf vampire and uh, werewolf games are very much like, well, even the mage games are very much like that. Like everybody knows who the bad guys are, right? You just can't openly do something about it because the way the rules are set up, all the other people become now your enemies and you can't get done what you want to get done. So if yes, in the idea of Namor and Aquaman, more um more regimented in the Wakanda background. Many times when characters are part of a nation state, there are other factions, there are other political entities that maybe from the outside people don't know about, but when you go internally, they are there. Now, with Namor and Aquaman, it's a little more nebulous because different writers have come up with different, are they blue skin? Like in Namor's case, some of the aquatic people had blue skin, some of them had green skin, and usually it's because a writer comes along and wants to make their own stamp on it, and then over time, someone goes, "Oh, this all this canon is mess. Let me just combine it together." Same thing with Aquaman as well, right? There's supposed to be these different seven nations because the seven kingdoms under the sea and whatnot, um, different oceans around the world. You can very much make factions like that. When it comes to Wakanda, same thing. You had the Jabari tribe, and you have the different tribes. You have the border tribe, and the miners, and the river tribe, and whatnot. And very internally, the players may have different factions. Whether it's something as simple as the players are the first to land on an alien world, and there's like, well, there's the security faction, and there's the education faction, and the medical faction, and the geological faction, and they've all kind of split up into their different groups, and the players are trying to like herd cats and get them together. That it may be necessary, like, all right, I know who the bad guys are and I know who the villains are, but if I raise my hand at them, all these other factions are going to try to crush me, or at a minimum, uh, ignore my authority, and that may not be necessary. So players have to navigate the labyrinth in many ways to expose the bad guy to take them out. Now, yes, it could devolve into, why don't we just punch the bad guy in the throat and drag him out into the public square and beat the hell out of him? Sure, but that may not get what the players want. Um, Vampire the Masquerade does this excellently because there's rules about vampires not being able to attack each other, and if you do so, you'll cause a blood hunt, and a blood hunt means now legally within the culture of vampires in the darkness, all the other vampire factions can now come after you and hunt you down. So it puts a hard limit on what players can get away with. So now you have to hide in the shadows a little bit and set up the downfall of other NPCs and adversaries through proxies and things like that. And players may need to do that as well, making it maybe a little bit more political, whatnot, which can be fun. Also, Namor is not very subtle. Just look at him; not very subtle. He's like, I wear speedos. Um, my body's a temple. I'm a badass. So there should be plenty of opportunities for players to become badasses, and that is to whatever level of capability the players have. Give them plenty of opportunities to show the hell off, right? If they have the ability to lift up oil tankers, give them an oil tanker to lift up. you know, if they like to take out ninjas, you got to use the ninja. The what is it? The ninja ratio. Uh, the effectiveness of ninjas is inversely proportional to the number of ninjas present. So it's like the more ninjas, the less less capable they are. Um, but yeah. Yeah, vampires are only forbidden from killing each other. The rules do not forbid doing non-lethal damage. Yeah, 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 yeah. Vampire threading that needle is exactly, it's very, what's a very common thing in Dungeons and Dragons, like lawful evil. It's like, I'm following the rules. There's no rule against me doing non-lethal, taking away another vampire's resources, getting them exiled, embarrassing them, making your enemy or adversarial vampire public enemy number one, taking away or playing with their, dare I say, food source in vampire. I had a player character who purposefully, in another vampire's region, and this took place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, um, specifically spread like, this is during the heyday of AIDS and HIV and um, needles and drugs and things like that, and spread that throughout their enemies' vampires' hunting ground, causing basically a public nuisance and a public, yeah, it was a whole thing. Anyway, the CDC came in, or was it the FDA? Anyway, yeah, yeah. The Center for Disease Control. The Center for Disease Control came in and had to clean the area out, and it was like more police presence and stuff like that. And the other enemy vampires were just like pissed off, like, "What did you do?" Mufa, hey, what's going on? Says my current players in Symbol Room. I'm gonna put your comment up here. Are less interested in big picture storylines and instead want to pursue treasure hunting and getting into trouble. Less interest in politics or being heroic, and that's okay, right? Like talking about Namor and things like that. You don't need to have a whole storyline where it's like, um, just because you are the apex feudal lord doesn't mean that you're only dealing with like Game of Thrones level things. Sometimes it's just, hey, you are the only one that can go to the down into the Marianas Trench and recover this treasure, right? Or um, sometimes it's just a matter of, sometimes people see the red button and they just want to press the red button and uh, cause issues. I mean, there's a lot of storylines that involve Namor who is just bored. And there's nothing worse than having a god tier character who's bored and just like, why are you here, Namor? Well, I thought I'd hang around, and everyone's like, you you're an asshole. um, why are you here? You don't want me around? Is that an issue? And then it's just everyone's rolling their eyes like, oh my god, here we go again. This guy. And so yeah, play a storyline could literally be like, I'm bored. Let's go to and name a region, or let's uncover and name a thing and go there. Why not? Why the hell not? Now, the greater story may be, it's good that you're bored, but the rest of us need to be taken care of. Uh, there's a lot of stories with these aquatic characters. Like any character's got a throne. I guarantee you, there's artwork out there somewhere where they're like laying on the throne and they're doing a lean back. You ever get the wide leg lean back, right? They always lean on one arm, their chin's down. They're kind of like they're not just bored, but they're just like, oh, do I have to deal with this again? Sometimes they have like a spear, a rod, or something in their hand or whatever, and they're just like, I'm bored. What the hell? Or there's a little arrogance in there, like, yeah, I'm so powerful, I don't even have to sit up in my own throne. I can just chill. But there's a lot of fan art and official artwork out there like that for a lot of these feudal edge lords in in these various IPs, and that becomes a thing. Drew says, I also become bored when the players are only interested in loot. Yeah, yeah. So I'm with Namor and causing some trouble when it gets boring. That's a real thing, right? Like when you're playing a role playing game and every other player is focused on that one thing, and you're just like, can we get out of room number 3? There's nothing here. There's no secret doors. There's no, God, move. Yes. Namor literally is that character where everyone's just like talk, 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 talk. Namor's like red button, I'll press it, click. Or more specifically, it's the we should have a talk about ethics and morality about using the MacGuffin to solve the problem, but it might cause some other side effects. And Namor's like, shut the F up, click, push, you know. So yeah, he very much a if I had to think of an alignment, yeah, quite blending into the chaotic neutral of all that. Yeah, I guess Namor would be rather chaotic neutral. Wouldn't think of himself that way. I mean, would think of himself as having like a very high moral standard, and would think of himself as like thinking things through and very responsible, but not really. Yeah, they aren't evil, just not classic hero. Well, I guess I could argue with you a little bit, Mufa. Says, yeah, one player sold his soul to a demon for a magical tattoo, and the other's turning a dark sorceress. There are avenues for things to get interesting. That's a very Namor-ish thing. Like, I don't care to have dark magic. Let me see what this is about. They aren't evil, just not classic heroes. Well, I would argue, and mind you, this is a very minor argument. Back in the day of like the Jack Vance, um, Conan the Barbarian storylines during that era, that the heroism isn't the heroism we're thinking of today, right? Of doing the right thing. It was more of heroics of exploration. So it was more in line with Indiana Jones in the sense of acquiring things because they were there. Why climb the mountain? Because it's there. Why go into the deep dungeon? Because it's there. Why go through the dark, dank jungle? Because it's there. It wasn't to save people's lives. It wasn't to do the right thing. It was we are intrepid heroes or adventurers. Maybe not heroes. Maybe more adventurers. And we are on an adventure. And it wasn't really about like moral it wasn't about testing your morality and should we kill the people that it was like, hey, if you're going to go into the dark jungle, you're probably going to murder, kill the people in there. Whatever. they're in the way of getting they're in the way of getting to the thing. And a lot of those old stories, like those Conan stories and Conan-esque stories, were very much like that. It wasn't really about saving people's lives or now sometimes it was like it was about removing the uh, dark orb out of the hands of the even more dark cult, right? Like we didn't want the cult to summon the great demonic evil from the pentagram or whatever on the floor, but it wasn't like we were doing it out of goodness of our heart. It was more like that guy's an asshole, and I'm gonna punch him in the face. Um, so there was a bit of that. So maybe the going after the loot thing, like you mentioned, Drew, which is a throwback to classic OSR. Yeah, sometimes in our own lives, right? Like some people just want to like steal shit and beat people up, and the OSR style gaming it kind of fits into that, right? But that doesn't mean that's the only way to game. I mean, we cyberpunk, as was mentioned the other day by Raven, a new person that found the channel, cyberpunk, Blaze in the Dark. We so many other heck, werewolf, vampire. There's a lot of games out there where players can play characters that aren't heroes, but they aren't necessarily the bad guy. Cyberpunk characters are basically criminals. You start out as criminals, and you don't really move much from that position. Blades in the Dark, criminals committing crimes. You can play assassins and drug dealers and thugs in the street and things like that. There is a new game that I just purchased. Haven't gotten it yet, but uh, I'm going to butcher the name of it. Black Lodge Games just released. Just did a yeah, downloads. Okay, sorry, I just purchased a game. It's a white box OSR game, and it is based on Um, there we go. I'm gonna share it to you because it's pretty interesting and quite wild. I'll increase the size of this so that I can show off the title to you here, and then talk about it because it is thematic. Um, mm, 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 mm. Is it a window? Yeah, we're going to show off this window. Let's share this, and then so this game is a like I said, it's white box, and it is a game about. I love myself cultural and ethnic styled role playing games, and it's I'm going to butcher the name of this Machuahuto Ma Makuahuto. Anyway, white box role playing in the Aztec Empire, and it is OSR gaming taken from the point of view of the people of the Aztec Empire, and the point of the game to prevent the gods from destroying the world is to go around and capture people and sacrifice them to the gods. That is the game. Pretty damn dark. Yeah. Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph. Yep. Yeah, very much like that. Yeah, 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 yeah. So this game, yeah, I'm going to do a review of it in February. I have this game. There's another game that the creator of Cairn, not Karen, Cairn's second edition, um, has an adventure out related to a a Jewish community, a Jewish historical community. So I got that one. I love, and the designers of that are all Jewish, and so like Machohito, Makuhito, Makwahito. Fuck, I'm butchering it. And you'll have fun being able to make fun of me when I review this game. But yeah, I just wanted to show off a little bit of a thing here where like yeah, there's a lot of games out there and even more indie games that like embrace the idea that yeah, it's about this culture, it's about this way of life, it's about this behavior, and we aren't going to yeah, Karen on Karen with Karen. Exactly. What a setting. I want to talk to the manager. Oh, did you just crit? The manager, you know, gives into your demands. Yes. Now, who's somebody of an ethnic background that I can like abuse? I get a +2 to do that. Click, clickety clack. Oh shit! Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh man, different character classes like character abilities like temper tantrum. I'm gonna call the police. You don't belong here, and other such great ones. um, crazy wild anger face on while being recorded on phone. Oh man, yeah. Oh shit. Now you got now you actually have my mind going on something like that. How funny would that be? Oh, hilarious. But yeah, sometimes we need things. Sometimes we need things to break the mold, and sometimes breaking that mold is just like I don't really want to be a hero. I just want to be like maybe I want to play an asshole. Maybe some of us are so nice in our regular lives that every once in a while we want to be the winner. And we all know that no good deed goes unpunished. And sometimes we just want to be the asshole. See how my finger's like right there, like right in that region? Yeah. Sometimes we want to play the asshole, and it comes with the territory, and not have a game punish us for that. And why not? Why not do that? So love myself some Namor. I like I like characters that have flaws, that aren't perfect, that do have problems. While I love a Captain America, I like myself a Namor. I love myself a Captain Britain. Just a bunch of other. Heck, I even like Tony Stark and his drinking problems and things like that. A bit arrogant. I like characters like that because they get themselves into their own trouble, and that's a very common mythological trait to have amongst many of our mythic heroes. Hercules is one of our a very common popular character who came upon the scene and got himself into a lot of trouble. You know, with a lot of murder killing in the background. That is his own fault. King Arthur and the whole round table and the stories around those characters. A lot of like arrogance and misunderstanding and you know a lot of storylines involved characters doing things that maybe they should have thought about or had a little more self control and whatnot. And those make some of the greatest stories. Players in the session zero, and remember, session zero can come up at any time. There's a lot of indie games that tell stories about characters' motivations, and you could very much modulate um, characters' bonuses and penalties and difficulties and complications and baggage and whatnot that characters have based on players agreeing to delve into their more base nature and making mistakes and being characters that aren't perfect and being the Namor of the adventure and going, no, I really shouldn't ignore the United Nations and attack the fake country of Macklvanalbania, and Macklebania is the one sending armed mercenaries to attack these innocents, and I'm going to stop it anyway, even though they're telling me not to, knowing it's going to cause problems and the embracing the problems that come about from it, and Powered by the Apocalypse is a very simple game mechanics focused game that tells stories like that. Like, no, 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 we understand you're going to win, but what are the complications that lead to it? Are they things you're creating yourself or coming externally? And embracing that in like many of the Powered by Apocalypse hacks that are out there. And it's like, no, no, you're the big damn hero. You just keep making mistakes, and you need to solve those complications that are happening in and around you. And then it's very much embracing the oh, I shouldn't have done that. Now I just made things worse. So yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for letting me um, go on and pontificate about Namor and Aquaman a little bit, and my man Black Panther there in the background, and some of these other characters that are like feudal edge lords. I know they're not necessarily edge lords, but you get the point, right? They're they are the he, she, and they are the Billy badasses of the fantasy realm. I suppose you could even throw in like a Martian Manhunter in there if you wanted to. A Green Lantern kind of fits the category tangentially as well. Many of the Doctor Stranges and Doctor Fates magic spellcasters who have to protect the material world from the extra dimensional people, they kind of fit into that category as well. Thor, Hercules fits into those categories where they're just like, I'm designated protector of this protectorate and city state or community or whatever, and hilarity ensues when I leave and when I come back and have to solve issues. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for letting me show that off and try to find something. Maybe you've been spawned to create a bad guy that's related to something, to a character like this, which is perfect. Or make an adversarial NPC that may one day help the player characters. Great character to use that from. Um, the thick packed, thick thigh, all muscle oiled oiled up dude here also tends to just his mere presence is great to have as an adversary for making the other characters maybe look bad because of the both physical and charismatic um, chest in the air, um, aura that the character carries. Makes a great NPC as well. So, guys, anyway, thank you very much for being part of the show. I'm so glad my restream started working well as well. For those who don't know, as when we get into February is Black History Month. I use it on the channel. Usually, maybe 1 or 2 weeks of the month, I will do a each day. I usually try to do some kind of game that I feel subjectively, maybe not on purpose by the game designers, but that I feel really embraces the ability to express ethnicity. And that ethnicity isn't necessarily one of a genetic type. Like I've done ones on Iskloth, the Viking themed game. I've done ones on like anything that I love that's like historic and really embraces the culture of those things there. And this one, ooh, if you want to talk about the common word we have today called problematic, ooh, this one is it. But it's real interesting, and I like the fact that it just embraces it, doesn't make apologies for it, but also revel in the doesn't revel in the exploitation of it. It just is like, hey, from these people's point of view at this time, it's what it's about, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm all in for it. So, guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for just letting me be me and you guys hanging out. I really like that. So, anyway, have a great one. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, uh, probably sooner than later, you're going to see the braided locks disappear. I'm a man of a certain age. I am a graybeard, grognardian geek, and along with the gray hairs comes other male things like pattern male baldness and whatnot. And it's like, why? You get the going back in the forehead, and it's like that's not too bad. But then when you got the thing growing in the back, I'm not doing a dreadlock comb over, so I'll probably just cut the whole thing off. So while I love my locks and my wife really has gotten attuned to them, and I have been growing them for quite a long time, might have to say goodbye. So I may even record the process just to have. That would be really cool to have it like on an intro or outro or something like that. That'd be kind of cool anyway. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for letting me pontificate. I really appreciate it. Have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show, and be encouraged and find inspiration from the things in and around you. So have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace and tranquility. Bye.